Hello, I'm Adrian Jimenez Morales, and this is the presentation for my community exploration project. The community I decided to do research on was Latin American immigrant mothers and the effects of migration and motherhood on identity. This community is one of the fastest growing communities in the US, which has accounted for half of the US population growth between the year 2000 and 2006. It is also one of the most diverse cultural groups as they migrate for very different reasons, either as cultural ambassadors, political refugees, or just pursuing higher education. Thus, they form very specific subcultures which have very specific effects on the larger US culture. When it comes to the secondary research, I consulted four peer reviewed journals. The first one being by Calzada and Sales on the top left, and this paper explored the acculturation process and the effect this has on identity. Acculturation is the process by which an immigrant adopts the culture and traditions of the new host country. The second source is the one by Dominguez and Lobito on the top right, and this one explores how mothers maintain the Hispanic culture in their household and how they can struggle with finding social services and government support. The third one is the one on the bottom left by Kelly, which explores the negative manifestations of familism. Familism is the value of the traditional family structure and the prioritization of such a family structure. And in this case, the negative manifestation is intimate partner violence. And the last one is the one by Vesley et al. In the bottom right, which explores the negative aspects of acculturation, how this can cause depression amongst immigrants, and how this changes family dynamics. When it comes to the primary research, I interviewed three women. The first one being Gabriela, which is a Mexican woman, mother of two, who moved to the US to offer her children better life opportunities. The second one was Susana, also a Mexican woman, mother of one adolescent child, who moved to consolidate the family structure in the US. And the last one was Celeste, which is also a Mexican woman, mother of two, who moved to maintain the family structure. So the results of these two types of research are controversial and often contradict each other. Controversial in the sense that they have different opinions on the same topics, and they also exemplify different manifestations of familism, acculturation, and tradition, which are the most important points in this project. When it comes to the findings, they are divided in four categories, with the first one being the effects of motherhood on migration on the top left. Uh, it was found that motherhood incentivizes migration in most, if not all, cases, and this can add stress factors but also help endure migration. So there's a duality to that aspect. When it comes to how migration affects motherhood on the top right, it was found that migration changes the family dynamic to various extents, and this can cause either positive or negative impacts depending on the scope. And that also migration forces mothers to acculturate and to pick up on different parenting strategies. Then there is how migration affects identity on the bottom left, and this prompts the woman to reevaluate her life situation and find a new sense of home. It is also the basis for the creation of social networks. They create very specific groups of immigrant mothers who share traditions, language, and customs, and this generates a new cultural identity on the US. Uh, Finally, the final section is how motherhood affects identity, and for instance, it is the most important factor uh, shaping identity. It is also the guide for the creation of the new support networks. It is the incentive to create organizations and charities and projects, and it can also cause transitional turmoil as this woman go through different phases of motherhood, of life, and yeah, it can add a little bit of stress, but overall it has positive effects. When it comes to the complications in this project, time was obviously one of them. I had only 4 months to consolidate this project, which limited the time for research more than anything, and also the scope. I'm a college freshman, so I don't have enough expertise on either psychology or sociology, so my analysis is rather superficial in this matter. When it comes to further research, my final thesis was that motherhood shapes Latin immigrant mothers' decision to migrate, ways of approaching and prioritizing challenges, and it also reshapes their connections. At the same time, it is their ethnic background that shapes their motherhood by setting parenting strategies, preventing acculturation, and forming specific ethnic groups. So, based on this, this can be taken as a possible framework for a future senior thesis in which interviews could encompass a larger pool of women from different states, from different countries. From different countries living in different states, and of course different situations, and this can be analyzed by two different scopes, with the first one being how motherhood affects identity in psychological terms, and how support networks affect identity in sociological terms. And yeah, this was my project. It was honestly pretty good. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation as well, and have a good day.